Welcome into the Birds of the Round Table. Today we've got a great show for you guys. We're going to kick off a 2-week series. No, we don't need to mention the results of last week's podcast, the worst Eagles draft. That's in the past. It doesn't matter that Ryan edged me out on YouTube in the finals because obviously, the Twitter crowd, you guys know where it's at. You backed my worst team and YouTube YouTube just jumped in and gave Ryan the championship. No. So we don't need to talk about that. We only talk about things when David or I win. So we're going to keep the show rolling here. And we're going to introduce our new series. We're going to do this for the next 2 weeks. We're going to go through each position group in the NFC East. Offense today, defense next week. And we're going to power rank those position groups. And just another way to talk about players, how they stack up, and overall what we think the strengths and weaknesses of each team are coming into the draft. So that's a really long introduction before I even introduce the people, but I haven't sat in the host chair in a while. So I'm your host for tonight, Shane Haff. You can give me a follow on Twitter at Shane Haff NFL. We've got Daniel chiming in on YouTube saying happy Tuesday. It is a happy Tuesday for Ryan. He finally won one of our polls. Give Ryan a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Brian, how are you doing?
I reject that statement. I win all the time. And whether it's fair or unfair. But anyway, I was glad it had been a little while. So I'm glad I finally got in the win column. And because I should have won the last 8, to be perfectly honest. But.
You know what? I'm going to go back at least the last month or so. I'm going to keep track, and I'm going to create a scoreboard just we have a visual of this.
Can we go really back so I can get some credit from early win?
By my count, this is episode number 90 of Birds of the Round Table. Let's go all the way back to the beginning.
Let's go back.
All right. Also joined by Deibs. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Deibs, how are you doing?
Good, man. Spent the day at the pool. Ready to talk some birds.
All right, and joined, not as always, but joined by David. Give him a follow on Twitter at PHL Eagle News. He's not really the new member of the show anymore because we're over a season in. But David, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Ready to break down the rosters of all of the NFC East opponents and the Eagles themselves.
All right. Well, let's dive into it. I've got a graphic that we're going to throw up on the screen. If you are listening on an audio platform only, you can check Twitter. I'll have this out on Twitter by the time you're listening to this show. But we're going to save quarterback because everybody wants to talk about quarterback. We're actually going to sort of work this in reverse order. So we've divided this into 6 categories. We've got quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive tackle, and interior offensive line. So let's start off with offensive tackles. Deibs, talk to me a little bit about the offensive tackles and how you would stack up the different units across the division here.
All right, so leading off, you got to start off with the Eagles. Obviously, Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson. Mailata's obviously excellent. He was terrific in 2023. When you look at PFF grade, he was among the top graded offensive tackles at the start of the season. Run blocking, pass blocking, he's sensational. Lane Johnson, we all know about Lane Johnson. For me, it comes down to backup tackle as the real concern for the Eagles here. Who provides that role? Could it be Mekhi Becton, former 11th overall pick in 2020? He had a terrible 2023 season, allowed 12 sacks and 59 total pressures. He's looking for greener pastures, quite literally. And in that case, he's going to the Birds and hoping that Jeff Stoutland can coach him up. And could he be that swing tackle? I don't know. But for me, put me down for the Eagles number 1. Number 2, this is where it gets very difficult because I'm not a fan of the rest of the division here. Obviously, you start with Andrew Thomas with the Giants, but I don't like putting the Giants number 2 at all, considering how bad that offensive line was in 2023. After Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, he stinks. You look at the Cowboys, Tyler Guyton. I was not a big fan of his. I thought that was a reach. Terrence Steele, we know, is straight garbage. They gave him a 5-year extension, and he had his worst season with the Cowboys last year. The good news is for the Cowboys, they can opt out of his contract in 2026. We'll see what happens there. They have another 7th-round pick in Nathan Thomas out of Louisiana. And then the Commanders, it doesn't get much better. They're hoping Cornelius Lucas kind of gives them kind of out the gate protection there at left tackle until Brandon Coleman is ready to go out of Texas Christian. And then you've got Andrew Wiley, who's kind of I'm not a big fan. So give me the Eagles number 1. I'm going to go. I'm going to leave this up to you guys, and then I'll decide from there because I don't like the rest of the 3 at all.
Let's get the Eagles consensus number 1 here for everybody with Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata. I would imagine so.
Yes.
I have them as the best and the 3rd best tackle in the division. If everybody's cool with that, we'll go ahead and plug the Eagles in. Does anybody have a strong opinion about who should go in number 2? Okay.
Wouldn't say strong opinion, but I actually had Dallas second, but I wouldn't say it's a strong opinion.
Terrence Steele was so bad. So bad. And then as we talked about Tyler Guyton, that's a rookie.
My big concern with Tyler Guyton is he was a really raw player, didn't play a lot at Oklahoma, and he played at right tackle. And so he's going to be A, starting right away, which I think might be a struggle for him, and B, flipping sides of the line. So I actually have Dallas number 3 on mine. Ryan, how did you stack? Who did you have number 2? Or where did you have Dallas, I guess I'll ask.
So I had Dallas 3. Because, I mean, again, Terrence Steele, I mean, theoretically, I think Tyler Smith is still listed as a tackle, but, again, we know that he's been playing guard. And Guyton is going to have to be relied upon to do quite a bit, and we all knew that it was a project. So, I think Dallas, in my opinion, is 3rd.
Okay, who did you have second?
I had the Giants, begrudgingly.
Okay, interesting. So I actually had the Giants last, and I had Washington second. So we're all over the place here.
I love it. Love it.
For me, I have Andrew Thomas as the 2nd best tackle in the division.
Right.
But I have Evan Neal as the worst starting tackle in the division. So it's how you balance those out. Like I think the Giants have a really good tackle and a really bad tackle. I think Washington and Andrew Wiley and Cornelius Lucas has like 2 average to slightly below average tackles. And then Dallas has a below average tackle and a rookie I don't really believe in. So
right,
I guess it comes down to how you stack all of that up.
Let's put Commanders number 2.
Okay.
Because at least they're reliable somewhat. And then Dallas number 3, and then Giants number 4. We cannot put the worst offensive line in a 2.
Yeah, I mean, there is that, but yeah, I don't know.
I have the order same, except I just had Dallas and Washington flipped. But I get the argument. I mean, I guess I'm banking on Steele being healthy, but aside from that, I think that's a pretty good order right there.
Okay, so on offensive tackle, we're going to go Eagles, Commanders, Cowboys, and then Giants. Let's move over to the interior offensive line. So the Eagles have an interior offensive line of Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, and Tyler Steen. The Cowboys have Tyler Smith, Brock Hoffman, and Zach Martin. The Commanders have Nick Allegretti, Tyler Biotish, and Sam Cosme. And the Giants have Jermaine Illuminor, John Michael Schmitz, and John Runyon. Ryan, where's your head at with interior offensive line?
Boy, it's all over the place, to be perfectly honest. I think each one of these teams has a very good interior offensive line. And then they have either somebody who's really shitty or very unproven. So it's kind of hard to know where to go with that. I think I give this. I hate to even say it, but I think I give the slight nod to the Eagles because again, you have Dickerson, who's one of the best left guards. In football, and is only ascending. You have the heir apparent to Jason Kelsey, who was handpicked by Kelsey, now finally playing his natural position. And, again, whomever ends up being the right guard, I guess if we're calling it Tyler Steen, he was still an early pick and has had a year to kind of learn. So I think there's a lot more positives than some of the other teams where those question marks, arise. So I narrowly picked the Eagles.
I completely disagree.
Ooh, all right. Lay that on me, Deibs. I do too, but I'll let you lay out the case here.
I'm putting the Eagles number 3. And I'm probably going to get hate for that.
That's exactly where I have them, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I like what the Cowboys are doing on the interior. The exact opposite of what you saw at the tackle. Zach Martin, Tyler Smith. You've got a future Hall of Famer there. You've got an All-Pro right there. I love the selection of Cooper Beebe. I thought that was a home run pick. He's 6'3", 322 pounds, back-to-back Big 12 lineman of the year. We all know about Cooper Beebe. We drafted him to the Eagles 1,000 times during the mock drafts. But he's also a guy that can provide excellent depth, left tackle, left guard, right tackle, you name it. He did it all for Kansas State. So give me Dallas Cowboys number 1 on the interior offensive line. Number 2, I'm going the Commanders. And I think there's a better argument that you should make maybe them number 1 because I thought they did a pretty good job. Sam Cosmi, quietly one of the better guards in the NFL. And Tyler Biadasz, I love that free agency pickup for the Commanders there. He's a Pro Bowler. He's going to really do a nice job there at center to help out Jaden Daniels moving forward. Outside of that, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen. What a huge season for Cam Jurgens. Huge shoes to fill. Not necessarily the physical part, but the mental part. Can he read the defense? Can he handle the stunts and the disguised blitzes? And we know opposing defensive coordinators are going to blitz up the middle with more Jalen Hurts under center, under Kellen Moore. Give me the Commanders number 3, and then number 2. Eagles number 3, and then Giants number 4. I don't really like what the Giants have at all, even though I was the biggest John Michael Schmitz fan during the draft process. Really struggled last year, but I expect him to kind of get it together in 2024.
All right. So that's actually the exact same order that I had. I went Dallas, Washington, Philly, and the Giants. And that may go way back to I was such a huge Sam Cosmi fan when he was coming out. I think Washington, Philly is an interesting argument at 2. Ultimately, I have concern. I don't have major concerns. I mean, I believe in Tyler Steen. I believe in Cam Jurgens. But if you're telling me, like, where is the Eagles season likely to go wrong on the offensive side of the ball, I'm saying it's the interior of the offensive line. So I have a little bit of questions there. David, how did you stack these up? Who did you have number 1? Did you go Philly? Did you go Dallas? Which way?
I had Dallas 1 for the same reasons. Tyler Smith, Zach Martin, Hoffman, Beebe. I mean, I think they're the most stacked. I think they built it the right way. I actually had Philly and Washington as 2A and 2B. I see them very similarly. I gave a slight edge to the Eagles due to Landon Dickerson, and I think he's the best of the group there between those two teams. And Jurgens, I do believe in him. I see that Kelsey's there almost every single day helping this guy along. I would be shocked if he does not understand the position or fail in any manner, but that's the way I had it. Exactly how you have it on the board.
Imagine if instead of giving the green dot to Jalen Hurts so that the coach can talk to him up until, 15 seconds on the play clock. Imagine they just give a headset to Kelsey and they give Cam Jurgens the green dot next year. It's like, hey, can you just call everything out, but not actually put your body on the line? That'd be kind of funny. So
the novel idea. I like that.
See, I will say one final thing in my defense. I did have to factor in the coach. You have young players that are going to be relied upon, but you also have the best offensive line coach in football. Dallas, Washington, Giants, they cannot say that. So that's why I have Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders all within a piece of paper separating all 3 of them. So that's why I gave them the edge.
Fair enough. So it sounds like kind of from our individual rankings, our consensus plays out to be Cowboys 1, Eagles 2, Commanders 3, Giants 4. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
All right. Let's move on to let's go to tight end now. We've established the offensive line. Let's go to the guys that block every once in a while. The Eagles have obviously Dallas Goedert. Dallas has Jake Ferguson. Washington has Zach Ertz, which just feels wrong to say. And the Giants, after the retirement of Darren Waller, have Daniel Bellinger as their tight end. So, David, who do you have number 1 here? How do you stack these guys up?
I went with the Eagles. I do think Goddard's probably the best tight end in the division. He might be a top 7 tight end in the league if he can stay healthy. I have big concerns over their depth. I mean, Calcaterra, Alberto, Azuma, if that's how you pronounce it. I haven't seen anything from him since he's been there. I haven't seen anything from OTAs. He's kind of like the man missing. But I went with them first. Second, I went with Dallas. I thought Jake Ferguson did a great job replacing Schultz last year. Shoemaker out of Michigan, I think, is a pretty good player as well. And then third, I went with the Commanders, and that's mainly because I'm just a big Ben Sinnott guy. I really like him. I think he's going to be a really good tight end. I still like our old friend Zach Ertz a little bit too. I don't know what he has left in the tank, but for somebody to learn the position and learn the right way to go about it, I think Ben Sinnott probably has the best mentor that you could possibly have there. And then last, for the reasons you just mentioned, Shane Waller retiring, they got Bellinger and Penn State Theo Johnson, whatever he can give them in that position, who I do think could be good, but I don't think it's going to be this year.
Now, Ryan, I'm assuming you have a major problem with the disrespect for your guy Jack Stoll, not even being mentioned there. Can I assume you have the Giants number 1 on your ranking?
Oh wow. No, I do not. I have it the exact same way as David. And part of the reason why I had Dallas where they were too is they also have a Brevin Spanford from Minnesota who they drafted. So I really do I do really like him as well. And I think, with him and Shoemaker behind Ferguson, I think that's, overall a very good group of tight ends, whereas the Eagles might have the top end. It's 2 and 3 that maybe are the question marks there. So, but yeah, I had the exact same lineup.
All right. Deibs, are you good with that order? Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants?
I am, but I do want to add that I think the difference between the Eagles and the Cowboys is very slim. Very slim. It was very much just Dallas Goedert is by far the alpha dog of this group in the division. But we have to see it happen on the field. I like Ferguson. I like Schoonmaker. And outside of that, you look at the depth on the Eagles, it is bad. It is really bad. That's a position that I hope Howie addresses before preseason. Alberto, CJ, they're just bodies to me. So for me, I'm good with this. But I think this is a very close 1A, 1B situation.
Yeah, that's the exact same order that I had. I'm not going to lie. I actually threw that to David first because I thought he was going to put Dallas number 1 from a comment he made during our under 25 team draft when he took Jake Ferguson over Dallas Goedert. So I actually thought you were going to go Cowboys number 1 there, and you let me down a little bit. But okay, so let's get into quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Let's go running backs first here. So the Eagles have, obviously, Saquon Barkley, Kenny Gainwell, Will Shipley. The Cowboys have Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, and Royce Freeman. Washington has Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson Jr., and Chris Rodriguez. And the New York Giants have Devin Singletary, Eric Gray, and Tyrone Tracy. I really looked a lot more at the lead back than really factoring in depth too much here. But so I'll give you my order out of the gate here. So I went Eagles number 1. Saquon Barkley had a rough year last year. He only averaged 3.9 yards per carry. But again, he was dealing with one of the worst offensive line quarterback wide receiver situations in the NFL. And so if he's healthy, if he's fresh, playing on a more talented team. I expect him to bounce back. He was also one of 3 running backs last year with an average depth of target above 1 yard, along with Christian McCaffrey and James Cook. And I think it's so important to be able to use running backs in the passing game in that way. And so he can do that. He was also 3rd in snaps out of the slot behind Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson. So Saquon Barkley, I think, is the easy slam dunk number 1 here. Everybody good with that?
Absolutely. Yep.
And it's Noah Gray, by the way, Rommel.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
So, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, comment that came in that Ryan's responding to here says it's rare a team is stacked at every position on the roster. In comparison, what's the second string tight end behind Travis Kelce in Kansas City? I don't think anyone knows the backup over in Kansas City. He actually has done pretty well
he actually is pretty good.
But Kansas City is a little unique because they run a lot of 12 and 13 personnel. So they've also got Blake Bell, or at least they did. I'm not sure if he's still there, that you play with a little bit more. But so I have Barkley number 1, and then I went to Austin Eckler in Washington number 2, and Brian Robinson. He's a guy I kind of like. It's funny that I was digging through stats, and I didn't realize this, but Austin Eckler has not had a 1,000-yard season in his career, and yet he led the NFL in total touchdowns in both 2021 and 2022. But he's never had a 1,000-yard career or a 1,000-yard season. Now, he did have a bad 2023. The Chargers were a wreck, but I think Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson is a good, 1-2 punch. So I went Washington 2. I went the Giants 3. Devin Singletary. He's fine. He's not great. He's fine. He had a career high 216 carries last year. He had 898 yards. He was top 20 in rushing yards after contact, which is probably great because he's going to be contacted 4 yards deep every time behind this Giants offensive line. And then I went the Cowboys number 4 with Ezekiel Elliott. He had a lackluster 2022. Then he went to New England and he was even worse in 2023. I don't think this reunion is going to work out. So I went Eagles, Washington, Giants, Dallas. Deibs, how did you stack these up?
I have the same order, man. We all know about Saquon. He's going to be really fun, especially with Kellen Moore and the Eagles finally utilizing their running backs in the receiving game. Commanders, Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler. That's a solid duo right there. The Giants, it's going to be really, really interesting. They've kind of completely revamped that position. They had Saquon. And when he got hurt, the Giants had nothing at running back, and they're kind of going a more running back by committee type of thing in 2024. So shifting financial resources to other positions than running back, definitely kind of a interesting approach from the Giants moving forward. And then Ezekiel Elliott is absolutely garbage. Deuce Vaughn, Rico Dowdle. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Dallas is easily number 4 on this group.
All right. David, Ryan, do you guys have anything different there or anything you want to add in?
I have the exact same order. I do think it's probably the worst running backs in this division that I can remember in years. I mean, it's really bad. It's probably at least tied for the worst running backs in the entire league. If you go by division, I mean, it's really ugly. So, yeah, I agree with everything y'all said. I had the exact same order.
All right. Well, shout out to the Giants who finally were not ranked last in a position group. They were second to last in this one. So
and that was via free agent or trade, wasn't it? He wasn't even on their team last year.
Right.
No.
Okay, let's go to wide receiver. I think this one's going to be interesting. So let's do it this way. Ryan, who's the best receiver in the division? The singular receiver. Who's the best receiver?
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Do I need to give you a second to think?
No.
I'll go.
AJ Brown.
Okay, so Ryan says AJ Brown. Deibs?
CeeDee Lamb.
David?
I couldn't do it.
AJ Brown. All right. I also went AJ Brown. Deibs, is AJ Brown your number 2 receiver in the division?
Yes.
Ryan, is CeeDee Lamb your number 2?
100%, yes.
David?
Yeah.
Okay, same for me. So I was curious if anybody would have CeeDee Lamb behind Devontae Smith, which I think would be incredible. Eagles bias, but it is an Eagles podcast.
I love that, yeah.
For number 3, Ryan, who's your number 3 receiver in the division?
That's a tough one too. Man, I have to factor in like who's throwing the ball, right? But I think if I guess I have to just say Devontae.
Okay, Deibs.
I'm gonna go Terry McLaurin.
Okay, Ryan or David. Sorry,
I have Devontae by a little.
Okay, I have Devontae 3, but I have Terry McLaurin 4.
Me too.
Same. Okay, where do you factor in Malik Neighbors? He's number 5 for me. Is Malik Neighbors the next guy on people's lists?
Yes,
I could probably be.
I think there's an argument for Jahan Dotson. I think he's going to have a breakout year.
I like Jahan Dotson.
Okay.
Yeah, he had a sophomore slump, but I agree. He could do well, but a lot of that comes down to Jaden Daniels. So
exactly.
Right. Yeah. I think Jahan Dotson is a better player than his stats have showed because he hasn't had anybody throwing in the ball.
I really do. He's definitely had a lot of flashes.
Yeah.
But I had Brandon, so I went Malik Neighbors 5, Brandon Cook 6, Jahan Dotson 7, that's where I kind of stopped. That's kind of where I stopped ranking individual players. So we've kind of talked about the individual players. Now you start to talk about like team receiver groups as a whole. And I mean, obviously, if a team has the number 1 and the number 3 in AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, or number 2 and 3 if it's Deibs' list, that team's going to be number 1. So I think we all would have the Eagles as our number 1 receiving group. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. David, where would you go after the Eagles? Which team has the second best receiver group in the division?
Mainly on the strength of CeeDee Lamb, I still went the Cowboys. I still think he's an ascending player. I think he could do more than he already has. Braden Cooks is not consistent, but he is a good player. And Tolbert is okay. So I went with them, but I could see how people also would maybe go with the Commanders. But again, I go back to the quarterback. I have more confidence in Dak getting the ball to those guys than I do the other 2 quarterbacks in the division.
Okay. Deibs, do you agree with that? I would assume so, with CeeDee Lamb as your number 1 receiver. Do you have the Cowboys number 2?
Yeah, and I fully agree with that. I mean, Brandon Cooks had 8 touchdowns last year, and I like the Commanders and Jahan Dotson. I'm not even a Penn State guy, but it hasn't happened yet. So give me the Cowboys.
All right. Ryan, you good with that?
Yeah, but by a very slim margin over Washington. I think I like Washington's, core as a whole because I feel like they have talent throughout. Whereas Dallas, after you get through Brandon Cooks, it's like,
I did like the Commanders getting McCaffrey as a slot receiver in the draft too. I mean, he was drafted a little high in my opinion, but I do overall like the player.
Yeah, I like him. I like they have Crowder,
Olamide Zaccheaus.
Yeah, they have Zaccheaus. I forget the Brown kid,
De'Ami Brown.
Yeah, it's like a couple years in, but I don't mind him at all either. So I don't know. I just kind of like the overall, but I get it why Dallas would be.
Quick shout out to Ryan Flournoy, 6th round pick. For any draft sicko like myself, I remember calling him one of my underrated, day 3 sleepers prospects, and they nabbed him there in the 6th round. So keep an eye out for that guy.
All right. I'm actually really surprised that nobody was arguing for Malik Neighbors to be higher on the list. I figured that somebody would have him above McLaurin, maybe even above Devontae. Well, probably not Devontae because Eagles people, right? But I'm surprised nobody was arguing for him above Terry McLaurin.
I think there's upside with Darius Slayton and Malik Neighbors, right? Slayton has some contract issues going on. He didn't get an extension yet, right?
I haven't seen it, but I haven't been very online the last week or so.
No, I don't believe he has. But
there's potential.
Yeah,
Neighbors
there's definitely potential.
Yeah, he. If we do this a year from now, he's probably going to be higher than he was. Just like I think a year from now, Jake Ferguson will be the number one tight end in this division. But I do think he's ascending to that. But yeah, I couldn't do it without ever playing a game in the NFL. I can't.
Yeah,
leapfrog him ahead of all those guys.
Well, and that's the thing with the Giants. I feel like they have like 6 guys that, all right, they're not the best, but like I feel like one of them has had, at one time or another has shown slight flashes, whether it's Jalen Hyatt, Hyatt, Hodgins. I think they got Isaiah McKenzie, who again, not the gonna be a number one, but I don't know. I just think they had okay depth, whereas after the Eagles 4th receiver, you want to jump off a bridge.
Yeah. So
you don't like Johnny Wilson?
I haven't seen him play.
Harris Campbell, Britton Covey, come on, man.
Oh my God.
Fingers crossed.
You can get out of here with that Covey crap.
Anais Williams is that.
Anais Smith.
Anais Smith is that guy for the Eagles. I think Paris Campbell's going to be the guy with his inside-outside versatility, but we all are praying it's Anais Smith, and we can just forget about wide receiver 3 for a while.
I don't think wide receiver 3 is currently on their roster. I think Howie's still looking for wide receiver 3.
Fair.
All right. So we have at wide receiver Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants, noting the Eagles are pretty top heavy and, not having a lot behind those top 2, but the strength of those top 2 carries them to number 1. So the Giants, once again, coming in last here on this one.
Really?
Let's move on to the last position where I think we can just go ahead and say the Giants are going to be last again.
Yes.
Daniel Jones was the 3rd best quarterback on his team last year behind Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito.
Wow.
If you like PFF grading, in each of his last 3 seasons, he's finished with more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws. He's had tremendously low average depth of target. And it's actually PFF grading that also says that he was the 3rd best quarterback on his team last year. So not good there. That's what he did in year 1 with Brian Daboll is the exact reason that franchise tags exist, and they chose to sign him to a deal. And that's just insane. But so he's last on the list. I'm going to assume we can pretty unanimously say the Commanders with Jaden Daniels are number 3 on the list.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. And so that leaves us with Dak Prescott versus Jalen Hurts for the top QB in the division. So tune in next time. No, I'm just kidding.
Before we move
Let's
on,
go to a quick commercial break.
What do y'all think of Jaden Daniels, though? Like, I see him as a high floor, but I don't know how high of a ceiling kind of guy. But what do y'all see?
I'm excited for Jaden Daniels, but I think they made the wrong selection.
Same.
It should have been Drake May.
I think we all thought that on draft night. We were all surprised.
I'm still excited. I'm excited to see what he's got. I think, obviously the dual threat stuff, but you look at Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, just 2 guys that are just dying for better quarterback play. I'm excited to see him out the gate. He's one of the storylines, at least during the preseason, that I can't wait to see him get out on the football field.
He comes behind a decent line right out the gate. He's got weapons, like you mentioned. I mean, if you look at our rankings, he's in a pretty good situation, pretty good offensive situation.
Yeah, I think they absolutely made the wrong selection. That said, I think he's going to come in and he's going to be really exciting as a rookie. I mean, he's got the mobility. My concerns with him are injury. Like he's got a skinny frame and doesn't protect himself well, and the NFL is going to come after him. And also, just like progressing as a passer, I'm not sure he's going to do that. He's an older player. He never really brought that into his game at the college level because he was the fastest guy on the field, and he's going to have to progress. And I'm not sure he's going to do that, but I do think he's going to be really exciting while he lasts. And, hopefully if you're an Eagles fan, hopefully he doesn't develop that over time. But I think he's high floor because of his mobility. So I think Washington's going to look a lot better this year with him.
Yeah, that's the same way I see it. High floor, but mid ceiling. But yeah, that's exactly.
I'm really excited to see what offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury can do with Jaden Daniels. That's going to be really exciting.
Cliff Kingsbury's a clown. But
all right,
he should have stayed in where did he go? New Zealand. Had a comment coming in here from Facebook asking about what about depth in case of injuries.
Trey Lance is Dak's backup, and Cooper Rush.
Who played really well last year.
Yeah, I didn't factor backups in at all because I just figure a team's kind of toast if your quarterback goes down anyways. Eagles Super Bowl notwithstanding, but the Eagles winning a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback has forever given everyone in Philadelphia totally unrealistic expectations including Howie and the way he's gone out and drafted backup quarterbacks. But that's how they ended up with Jalen Hurts to begin with. So I guess it worked out. So the Jalen Hurts versus Dak Prescott thing. Let's just take a straw poll and see where we're at to begin with. David, which guy do you have as QB1 in the division?
I went with Hurts. I think if he protects the ball, he's the better overall quarterback. I think last season was the outlier where he didn't protect the ball. Dak has not been able to get it done when it matters the most. He's, in my opinion, missing the clutch gene. I think we've seen his best, and I still think Jalen Hurts' best is yet to come.
All right. Let's continue taking the straw poll. So David has Hurts number one. Deibs, who do you have number one?
I hate this so much.
By the way, actually, I'll give you a second to think. I'll give you a second to think. David mentioned the turnovers for Hurts. What's funny is Jalen Hurts actually had less turnover-worthy plays last year than Dak Prescott.
Yeah, it was like 40% of them were on tips and everything else. Yeah.
He had 16 turnover-worthy plays and 15 interceptions. It was the same thing with Dak the year before. Dak was, when he led the NFL in interceptions in 2022, it was tremendously bad luck. I'm not really I wasn't concerned about it for Dak then. I'm not concerned about it with Hurts now. But go ahead, Deibs. Go ahead and tell us why you're picking Dak.
I think it's dead even, and I think I'm going to give the slight edge to Dak Prescott for number one because a lot of the reasons why I'm hoping Jalen Hurts takes that next step under Kellen Moore, with the quick passes, getting the ball out fast, more under center, hitting those underneath routes. Between the years, Dak Prescott's terrific. And that's where I want to see Jalen Hurts grow in 2024. So this one I hate so much that I have to make this decision. But for me, I have to say Dak.
All right. Ryan, Dak or Hurts?
Yeah, it's definitely Jalen Hurts here. I think, again, last year was more of the anomaly. And I think, maybe we won't see the highs of 2022, but I still think he's somewhere more towards the high end of that season than the high end of this past season. So I just the inconsistencies in Dak's game drive me absolutely nuts. So I'm going to give it to a slight edge, although, don't get me wrong, Dak, for as much crap as we've given him over the years, has been a very, good quarterback. And, just Dallas just can't seem to surround him with a decent enough team. So give me Jalen Hurts.
All right. I also went Jalen Hurts. For me, a lot of it comes down to postseason at this point. Dak's a tremendously good quarterback, and I've defended Dak, or I've been fair about Dak, I think, for a long time. But when I did my QB rankings on Chalk Talk with Mark, I had Jalen Hurts as QB6 in the league, and I had Dak as QB9. I think they're both good players. At the end of the day, it feels like a lot of Dak's stat padding. He gets a lot of stat padding against bad opponents. And the struggles in the playoff are a real thing. And, there's been some issue, and people will point to last year. Look at all the points they put up or whatever. Yeah, but he threw 2 picks early in the game and got them in a big hole. And there's a lot of that. So I think Dak's a tremendously good player. but I have him slightly behind Jalen Hurts. Overall rankings, I got Hurts 6 and Dak 9. So that's how I would stack it up.
Yeah, 2 and 5 in the playoffs was the determining difference for me as well. He just, like I said, he just doesn't have that clutch gene, and I don't know if you inherit that. I don't know how it comes about, but whatever it is, I don't believe he has it.
Yeah. All right. So that puts us at quarterback. We go Eagles 1, Cowboys 2, Washington 3, Giants 4. And so looking across this board here, 2 things stick out to me. It's the Giants being last and everything but running back where they're third. And then it's the Eagles being first and everything except their interior offensive line where we have them second.
Would they be one if Kelsey came back?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Because at that point, if Kelsey's back,
it's the same.
You don't have questions. Yeah, it's the
Right.
same. And Dallas has a new center in Brock Hoffman. And so
Right.
I think you would, and Dallas would still have be really high up there because I really love their offensive guard duo. But yeah, I think I would grade them that way.
If you had to grade, so the grading system, like if you gave 3 points to the first team, 2 points to the second team, 3 points to the first team, 2 points to the second team, 1 point to the third team, 0 for the fourth team, the Eagles would have a double-digit lead on offense in the division right now.
Yeah.
If you just look at the offense as we just did.
Wow.
Double digits.
Wow.
I counted 17.
Yeah. So if using Deibs grading scale here, if you award 3 points for first, 2 points for second, 1 point for third, and 0 for fourth, the Eagles would have 17 points. Dallas would have 9. The Commanders would have 8, and the Giants would have 1.
Oh God,
I can't do math, but still, that being
Yeah.
said, it's still a pretty massive,
it's almost double.
almost massive advantage to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, that is crazy. I didn't expect it. Like I knew that I didn't expect coming into this exercise for the Eagles to be first in all of these. I really didn't think that it would be that way until I started diving into some of them. I thought Dallas would push them a little more on some, and obviously Dak and Jalen is close, and CeeDee Lamb is a legit receiver. You could argue the best receiver in the division, but behind it, they're clearly, lacking. And tight end is a toss-up maybe between them. So they're really close in a lot. I don't think that gap between the Eagles and Dallas is not nearly as wide as like a scoring metric like that would show you. But anyways, that's interesting. We'll have to do it with the defensive side next week and then tally it up overall and see where we end up.
Yeah,
I think next week is a lot more challenging. It's going to be a lot different looking.
Yeah, for sure.
Agreed.
So, all right. Well, that's going to about wrap it up for our NFC East offense power rankings. Before we get out of here, comment here from Ronald on Facebook. I enjoy your explanation on why you grade the players. Appreciate it. He's also questioning our math, and so we're going to double check this math off the air before I tweet it out officially, because it's entirely possible we mathed that wrong while we were.
He literally mathed it wrong in his own mathing.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I can do good in this world, it is math. You literally said 3 by 3 is 9, 2 by 6 or 2 by 3 is 6. That's 15 plus 2, 17.
We got that one right, I think.
I don't know where 3 plus 2 is 5. Well, I mean, 3 plus 2 is 5, but I don't know where that extra 3 is coming from.
I will double check it, and I'll give the official results
right.
while you guys are doing your final thoughts and plugs. So let's throw to that. David, I'll throw it to you first. Tell the people where they can find you, what you got going on while I count.
Yeah, everything I post is, you can find it on my X handle at PHL Eagle News. I released a piece yesterday regarding the top 12 free agent signings over Howie Roseman's career. Feel free to disagree, as some have, but one caveat to it: Jason Peters was not traded for by Howie Roseman. He was not GM yet, which seems to be the number one thing everybody tried to flex on me with. But he was not the general manager in 2009. But check that out. Check out everybody else's stuff on here. I've been following everything a lot more closely because there's not as many people putting out content because of the downtime. So I've been seeing a lot more of all y'all guys' stuff. So definitely go give everybody a follow.
All right. Be sure you are following David. Check out his written work. I can report back with official numbers now. I had the Cowboys off by 1. They're 10, not 9. So it'd be Eagles 17, Cowboys 10, Commanders 8, Giants 1. So there you go. Ronald caught that one for us. Deibs, tell the people where they can find you. Tell them what you got going on. Plug your stuff.
Mr. Crockpot right there. My final thought is just begins and ends with Cam Jurgens and that the massive role he's going to provide in 2024 to the Eagles' success or lack of success. So much on that interior is going to be vital for Jalen Hurts and keeping clean pockets and keeping him confident and avoiding bailing out of clean pockets and, getting the ball out fast, hitting those, quick routes, the comebacks, the curls, the slants, the wheel routes to running backs, the shotgun sets to, you name it, pistol, all the new stuff that Jalen Hurts is going to see, the timing routes to wide receivers down the middle of the field. It's going to be a lot of new shit, and it's going to be a lot of excitement. But at the end of the day, for me, it starts and ends with Cam Jurgens, hitting the ground running and doing his job. So you can find me at Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. I've been putting out a lot of NBA draft content these last few weeks, but we are almost done with that. And me and Ryan will be shifting gears to the NFL draft very, very soon. I've already covered a lot of guys in the NFL draft, but I needed a break. It's been a grind. I've already got 32 guys scouting reports covered, and we are gearing up for EA Sports college football. So if you like that, I got my capture card. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that.
All right. Yeah, I've already got a list of like 8 teams that I want to do dynasties or road to glories with. So we'll have to compare a list at some point in time. But Ryan, tell the people what you got going on, where they can find you.
Yes. And just to answer Ronald here before I start, yes, we do this all year round. This is the absolute best Eagles show you will find, bar none. I may be a little biased, but whatever. Anyway, you can follow me right here on X. I have shows Monday. I have 2 shows Monday, 6 o'clock, Football Smack Talk show, and then Party on Broad at 9 that I do with this gentleman here. And then, of course, Tuesdays at 8, the best Eagles show there is. Usually I'm kind of in and out with EOP. I can't wait to start our college football show and draft show that will be starting up relatively soon. And I'm just like these guys, I am ready for NCAA. I don't know what a capture card is, but I'll figure out. I'll figure out if I can stream, and maybe we can all figure it out together, or somebody can help me.
I've already got it. I've already got it figured it out. Just message me. I'll take care of all your technical needs.
For those new turning in under Ryan's name, where it says worst Eagles draft champion, that's actually a compliment. That's because if you were new to here, you would think that was just
you're absolutely right. You would think that was a dig, but we had and maybe this is for Ronald since he does seem to be new. Last week we drafted kind of a snake draft the worst Eagles players ever. We did kind of head to head, and I ended up beating Shane in the championship. But anyway, check that out if you have not seen it. It is a fun show. So
I'm not over it.
Defend your new comment, Ryan.
Too soon.
My new comment. Hey, listen. You know what? You might be right, because at least I host occasionally.
Hey, I didn't do that. I don't even know how to do that.
Occasionally, I host is all I'm saying.
Well, referencing that comment brings me to a review that I meant to read on the front of the show and I forgot. But we had a review come in on Apple Podcasts from T. Harry titled "Worst Eagles of All Time," and he said, "My wife and I were recently watching a movie, The Good Nurse, and Nnamdi Asomugha was playing a detective in the movie. Right. He's not a very good actor, but he was way better at acting than he was at covering receivers in his time on the team. I was glad to have him named in your draft because I was rudely reminded of him and wanted other fans to have to suffer remembering him too. Love all the shows on the network. Keep up the great work." So shout out to T. Harry for leaving us that review.
Love that.
Guys, if you are not watching this show live, Or maybe you're watching it live, or maybe you're watching it on YouTube, and you're like, I didn't know this was on Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, search for Eagles Pin Pull Network. You'll get this show. You'll get my show with Johnny Page on the Shane Page film review show. You also get an Eagles memory show with John Stolnis. He's going through the 2004 Eagles season. I was just like a fringe Eagles fan at the time, so it's fascinating for me to listen back to those. But you guys go check those out. Subscribe. We'd love it if you would leave us a review. It's a new podcast feed. We've only been at it for about a month, and so getting it in front of eyes and getting reviews really helps us do that. So would appreciate you taking the time to do that if you do enjoy the show. And that's going to wrap it up for this one. Be sure you're following these guys and all their great work. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA. Deibs is at Mr. Crockpot. David is at PHL Eagle News. And I am at Shane Half NFL. We'll catch you guys next week for another episode. We're going to do the same thing on the defensive side of the ball. And spoiler alert, the Eagles aren't going to fare quite as well probably as they did this week. But we'll talk about it next week. See you guys next Tuesday night at 8.